Hello, this is Keith Payne with Superior Lending.
And I'm Brenda Simmons with Presidio Real Estate.
And we're here with your home buying tip of the week. This week, we're going to talk about title companies and what they do in the process. And we've been leading up to this, introducing the other partners and their roles in the home buying process for you over the last few videos. So today we've invited Nick Dart with Keyland Title to join us and answer some questions about what a title company does.
All right, so the very first question we want to ask you, Nick, is what is a title company?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. I break down that in a nutshell, two aspects of what a title company is. The first aspect would be the title side of a title company, which of course that's the role that we would play in sending a professional title searcher to do a title search on a particular property. They would go through the county records. They would be looking for liens, encumbrances, they'd be looking for mortgages, things that the property may be impacted with that would affect a transaction or a buyer coming into a property. So that's the first element. The second aspect would be the escrow side of a title company. That's the role that we play in looking through a purchase contract and putting numbers together for settlement, making sure that everything is lined up properly, making sure that real estate commissions are added up properly. And then of course you have the escrow side of handling the disbursement. So the money comes into the title company and we make sure that everything is settled, matching up with the settlement statement that's been prepared and has been signed on, the parties have agreed on. So that would be the second element, is the escrow side.
Awesome. So that begs the question, what makes a good escrow officer? It sounds like they have a lot to do in this process.
Yeah, escrow officer there's a lot of moving parts. There's many transactions. Most escrow officers are working on multiple transactions at the same time. So I think it's very important that the escrow officer and their team, and I emphasize team because there's so many moving parts, that you need good help behind the scenes helping to put the transaction together. But of course, staying organized on top of things, having a proper line of communication with the parties, the real estate agents, the lender. I think that's crucial. I would also add to that it is, when you sit down at the closing table, there's a difference when you have an experienced, seasoned escrow officer versus somebody that's new, and really an escrow officer that can help to bring down the tension, sort of put people at ease. It's important for an escrow officer to be able to read the person sitting across the closing table. There are some people who are very detail oriented that want lots of information, and there are others that only want a brief explanation. And so you have to be able to determine who it is that's sitting across the table and conduct the closing in a professional manner. But there's also the element of making sure that we're acting as a proper fiduciary in the transaction, that the stipulations in the contract are adhered to, that everything is in accordance with state and federal law. Those are also important elements.
So that's such a vital job that you guys have. So my next question is, leading up to that closing table experience, what kind of communication can a buyer or a seller experience from the title company?
Yeah, so I would say on the buyer side, it's probably much less direct communication. We would do more direct communication with the lender, the loan officer, the real estate agent, in helping to, if there's anything that shows up on a title report that would be noteworthy to bring up, hey, this is an issue, we need to look at this, or this may take us some time to get this particular item cleared on the title report. As far as it pertains to a seller, I would say there's probably more direct communication with a seller because the fact that we're going to need information for mortgage payoffs. There's a lot of situations that can arise. If there's a divorce situation, we would need decrees of divorce that we would want to look at. So with a seller, I would say it's probably a little more direct than a buyer, but from time to time we will have direct communication with the buyer, but more often than not, it's going to happen with the agent and the lender.
Excellent. So a lot of times, acronyms are thrown out in the lending world, like most different businesses. We hear the terms PR and CD. Can you explain those for us?
Yeah, you're right. In the real estate and lending and title, there's a lot of acronyms. The PR stands for the preliminary report or the preliminary title report. And what that is, as I mentioned earlier, that when we send a title searcher over to the county to search public records and to look through all the various available court systems, tax systems, where we're going to try and gather as much information that would impact real property. The title searcher will then put a report together that basically details their work, and it sort of turns over, hey, this is what our findings are. We're putting it in a report. It's going to show who the vested owner of the property is. It's going to show if taxes are paid. It's going to show if there are liens, if there are mortgages recorded. It's going to show all the recorded items and stuff that shows up in the court records, and essentially tells you the story of, is this property marketable, or can it become marketable through some work and clearing title? But it's going to give that full report as to the property. And it's important to mention that it also is a commitment for a title insurer to insure the property in the transaction. So the title insurance underwriter is committing to issue a title policy on that property.
Excellent. And how about a CD?
CD, that's closing disclosure, so that's the official document for the borrower, the settlement statement. The closing disclosure is going to break down the terms of the loan, the purchase price of the property. It's going to show the associated fees with the transaction. What are the costs? What am I paying the lender? What am I paying the title company? All of those items. And then lastly, it's going to have some items specific to the purchase contract, the sales price, if there are seller paid closing costs, or if there's a home warranty. So the closing disclosure will act as the official settlement document outlining the numbers in terms of the loan for the borrower.
Excellent. Very helpful.
That's awesome. So our last question then is, in the event the buyer or the seller can't come to that closing table, what do you do to accommodate that?
That happens more often than you would think. So that we, as title companies, we are frequently putting together transactions where either the buyer or the seller is not present in the state of Utah, or in some cases they're out of the country. So what we do in that situation is we typically will try and line up a remote notary that can go directly to the individual and do an in-person closing. And of course, this with COVID, that can sometimes be challenging in some of these states that we're working in. But that's the first thing that we try to do, is set up a remote closing where there can be a notary present, where the individuals can sign in the presence of a notary. There has been some recent legislation in the state of Utah, the remote online notarization. So there are some options where through video conference, buyers or sellers we could actually do and there's a certification process that you have to go through for title companies to be licensed to conduct those type of closings. But that is becoming more and more an option, and I think probably something that will be more readily available in the future.
Thanks for joining us today for our home buying tip of the week, and thanks, Nick, for participating and answering
questions.
Very much.
I
appreciate that. If you or anyone you know is looking to buy, build, sell, or refinance, please have them give us a call.
And if you had any questions about what we talked about today, please call us. Our phone number is down here at the bottom of the screen. We would love to talk with you. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Brenda Simmons with Presidio Real Estate.
Perfect. Oh, and I'm Keith Payne with Superior Lending.
And
I'm Nick Dart with Key Land Title.
Take care.